Welcome everybody to Micro-Kickstarter 101. I am Zack, Applewhite. Most of you have already heard my spiel about what happens at the end. Take all the notes you want, so let's keep cooking. Shh. That might not work. I'm not that funny. All right, a little bit about me. I am a professional marketer for the past 5 years. Like, other people paid me to do this. All right, for the past 5 years. But I've been marketing since I was in high school. I am currently a search engine optimization specialist for a financial group, which just means I help them get found on Google. And I do have a degree in marketing, but that is my daytime. During the nighttime, I have successfully launched, funded, and fulfilled 21 Micro-Kickstarters, which is what we're here to talk about today, raising over $10,000 from over 1,000 backers. I have also got quite a bit of content marketing behind me. TikTok is at it's above 14,000. It's at 18,000 followers now. Facebook group, Twitter, YouTube. Back in high school, this is the high school YouTube anime. Got 29 million views. Made $0 because I was a dumb high schooler. And as soon as I met my wife, I dropped it because I wasn't lonely anymore. All right. Why am I here? I'm here because, one, I have the skills, as you can see. I've done this. I have the experience. And I'm also sick of seeing good ideas die because either someone launched a Kickstarter and had a misunderstanding about the opportunities and strategies available to them, or they told themselves they couldn't launch a Kickstarter because when they think of Kickstarter, they think of like Brandon Sanderson, hundreds of thousands of dollars, Legends of Avantris, Gloomhaven. They're thinking of these big, giant Kickstarters, all right? And what I'm offering today is something that's a little bit different. It's allowed me to help my wife raise $7,000 for her first book and again for her second book with pretty much $0 in ad spend. Like, I play with $100 every now and then, nothing substantial. It's all social media. Thank you. You can drop that off right there. Appreciate you. All right. All right. And I'm not even pushing her on my TikToks and stuff. Sorry, on my TikToks and stuff. Most of it's for fun. All right. The Micro-Kickstarter is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what it is, how it can help you, how to run a successful one, how to set yourself up for success, some specific tips and tricks. I need to drink something. Sorry. And I am going to go quickly because I'm going to pack a lot of time to that Q&A at the end. Because I know that a lot of you have very specific ideas in mind for what you want to create. They're very different from everyone else here. All right, and so I know that you're going to have very different questions for me, and I want to give you time to do that. All right. So the first thing we're going to do a 101 on Kickstarter. All right. So what is crowdfunding? All right. Crowdfunding, as I like to view it, is real people looking to support real people. All right. If they wanted to support a corporation, they would go to Walmart, but they're not. They are there to support people like you, people like me. They also want cool shit. All right. But they'd rather get it from someone who they can relate to. All right, it is an all or nothing platform. So if you wanted to raise $10,000, and that's what you set your funding goal as, and you raise $9,999, and the funding is ended, you get no money, and your backers who gave you those $9,999 get nothing taken out of their bank accounts. Your project is considered a failure despite having raised $9,999. All right, and you need to launch again, probably with a lower funding goal. And it's important to know going in. It is not for charity, so you cannot do anything where like, 10% of revenue that you guys back is going to go towards this charity. Kickstarter, for legal reasons, does not mess with that. All right, it is no equity or investing. You cannot sell a percentage of your company. You cannot offer buybacks. It's just not for that. All right. As Kickstarter puts it, they do not guarantee projects or investigate a creator's ability to complete their project. And while they have made it harder every year and easier to hold us accountable and harder to create an account, this still remains true. So there is some backer hesitation toward those larger projects from people that they've never heard of. All right, and so that's something to keep in mind, is that what you need to do as a small creator who has no reason for people to believe that you know what you're doing, all right, and also you might not know what you're doing, all right, that you're going to need to work to build a reputation, to build trust, all right. Some Kickstarter lingo, if you haven't heard. A backer, an individual who's giving you money to support your Kickstarter. They do that through a pledge, which is an amount of money promised by the backer in exchange for a reward. A reward is the product or service you promise the backer in exchange for that specific pledge amount. And then you have stretch goals, which we'll get into later in the presentation. Once a project is 100% funded, you have the opportunity to offer a stretch goal, which is usually an expansion on the core product. So let's say you're launching a book. A stretch goal might be a short story added to the book, all right? And you want to push them to now raise a little bit more than that 100%, okay? So there's just some lingo to get out of the way. Now, what is a micro-Kickstarter? It's very simple. A Kickstarter with generally low and attainable funding goal and affordable rewards. Generally speaking, between $100 and $500 or less, all right? And the thing to understand about a micro-Kickstarter is that that's not where you're gonna be forever. It is a piece of a larger strategy that is more manageable than that huge Kickstarter and easier to pull off. And if you do it successfully enough times, you can work your way up to that bigger Kickstarter, okay? So let's talk about that strategy. I'm gonna lay out the best parts of that strategy. And I'll also mention that this is something that me and my wife have used. Here's my background on this, is that I started in poetry. I sold poems for $1. I was not qualified to sell poetry for any amount of money. I was a pizza driver, okay? And while I was driving pizza, I wrote haikus in my head. And I thought, boy, this is worth paying for. Not much though. So I sold poems for $1. I had a funding goal of $1. That made $33. I eventually spun those out. I did another one, and I sold 2 books of poetry. All right, I'm a shitty poet, so I stopped. All right, I also just didn't like the poetry, like social media crowd. All right, so I stepped away and I went into TTRPGs. We created Aragarth, mostly my wife. She wrote the materials. She also is an aspiring author at that time. So she wrote short stories. She put the short stories in those materials. Every one of those Kickstarters was a funding goal of $100 or less, but would sometimes make over $1,000. All right, but because we had all these short stories, we stacked them together, created a book of short stories called Chronicles of Aragarth. We stacked in some new ones. By we, I mean my wife, again. All right, I'm just a facilitator. I'm just a cheerleader, okay? Put them all together and made a $500 funding goal. And this was a test for us. Can we sell a book of TTRPG short stories, which by the way, no one asked for, all right? Can we raise $500? If we can do that, we can do anything. We did that. That told us that my wife should pursue her dream that she's had since childhood of being an author. We launched her book and it raised $7,000. All right, that is what we're outlining today, is how to take something small, do it over again, pivot, test, learn, get better, build the audience to pivot and do the bigger thing. All right, so when I say that this is a small piece of a larger strategy, that's what I'm talking about. The first thing you get to do is test the market. When I was launching poems, I was testing the market for how far I could get with poetry. The answer was not far, so I pivoted away. All right, but it still allowed me to grow an audience. Some of the people who like poetry actually went over to the TTRPG stuff. We had a period of testing where we made dice bags, all right, that my wife crocheted. Through all of that, we were able to refine our process, product, and marketing. And by the way, a very low scale. It's much easier to find the mistakes, to refine them, and it not cost you when you're doing things at a poetry level, all right? When you're doing things at $100 and less, all right? You learn from those mistakes, and then you keep going. You keep building the bricks for something bigger, all right? It becomes a cycle, all right? So instead of launching one Kickstarter every 4 or 5 years that we have been working our tails off and pray to the gods above that we were right this whole time, we are proving to ourselves once or twice a year, sometimes 3, all right, through these micro Kickstarters that yes, our audience still knows who we are, we're still engaging them, they still like our product, new people have hopped on, they like our product, they're engaged with us, we grow our audience a little bit more. This is what gives you a foot in the door, builds that reputation we talked about earlier. All right, where people don't trust you because you don't have a reputation. Because you're so low, they can trust you easier. They're risking less, and you can build that reputation because you're showing up over and over again. And so that's the first thing that Micro-Kickstarter is less of. It's less risk. All right, for you, you're risking less time. A major Kickstarter, like Legends of Avantris, Gloomhaven, requires a lot of your time, years of your time, to successfully pull off something that's going to raise tens of thousands of dollars. All right, you're going to need to spend years marketing it, building the product, getting it out there, and trying to get it funded. It's also less financial risk, because what most of those Kickstarters don't tell you is that they're lucky if they break even at the tens of thousands of dollars level. Why? Because they spent thousands of dollars on marketing it, on the upfront cost of the art or the prototype, okay? With the micro Kickstarters, the way that I lay them out, it's very low cost on financial, if there's any financial cost at all. The only cost should be your labor and love, all right? It's less social risk. Most people, all right, don't have the audacity that I do, all right? They are afraid to say, I'm trying to raise a $10,000 Kickstarter, mom, dad, uncles, aunts, everybody I know, would you back it? Because there's a fear of failure, that social risk. If you fail, it's public, everyone saw it, all right? And you feel like a failure, more because they saw you fail. When you're only trying to raise $100 to $500, it's easier to say, hey, I'm trying something fun, can you back it? It makes it more casual. And if you fail, it was a side project. It's easier to brush off, pick up, learn from it, and then try another, all right? For backers, it's less financial risk. Because as we're going to talk about in pricing, they're not, because it's micro, it's not going to be a book that's going to cost $50 and not ship for a year and a half, all right? Or a game that's going to cost $70 and not ship for 2 years, okay? It's going to be less financial cost for them. That makes it easier for them to hop on to you. It's also generally less emotional turmoil. It's easier to ship, it's easier to fulfill, it's easier to launch, it's easier to build. It happens quicker. That means you're saving yourself years of, am I spending enough? Am I spending too much? You know, years of what else can be done? What else can be done? What else can be done? Instead, you're condensing it down, having all your emotional turmoil in 1 year or less, all right, and then moving forward from there. All right. It will also help you make less mistakes in the future. I misprinted my name on my first book, all right? To about 30 backers, I am Applewhite, all right? Guess who hasn't made that mistake since, all right? Guess who didn't make that mistake on the 200 books my wife sent out, okay? Making your mistakes at a macro level, or a micro level, helps you not make them at a macro level, okay? It's also it's much more practical learning. I went to college to learn stuff that does not matter, all right? 85 to 98% of it did not matter, all right, in my degree program. I cut my teeth in Kickstarter. I learned what matters in Kickstarter, all right? It helped me test what worked. We tried crochet dice bags. They kind of worked. But did they have viability within us? No. It took too much of my wife's time, all right? And she does not want to be the world's best dice bag crocheter. She wants to be an author. That taught us to pivot, all right? Which we learned from mistakes on the small scale. I already talked about this, so we don't make them on a big scale, all right? You learn what people respond to with pricing, okay? When you're doing this more often, you're getting to test what works more often, what doesn't work more often, and you'll realize that, hey, people really don't want to spend $30 or an extra $5 or $10 for a signature. All right, we got to add something more, or we got to lower the price. Okay. It's also more marketing, because you're talking about yourself and your project more easily. Because instead of saying for 4 years, hey, we got something coming in 4 years, okay, or being silent and then say, guess what we spent the past 4 years building out of nowhere. Instead, we're able to talk to our backers every year, once or twice a year, when we have something to say, hey, here's what we've been working on. And we're not we haven't talked to them in 4 years because that's all we can do on the side, building a really big project. Instead, hey, remember us from a few months ago? And by the way, we've been doing content this whole time that's semi-related. We have something else for you. It makes it easier to market. Fulfillment, process issues, you hadn't anticipated all of that on the micro level. One of the mistakes we made with that first book Kickstarter was a shipping error. All right, we reactionarily, everyone wanted a stretch goal. We didn't plan a stretch goal for the books because we thought they didn't need them. We were already really good. All right, but everyone wanted a stretch goal. So we threw an enamel pin their way, they ate it up like candy. All right, it wrecked our shipping. We didn't get media rate. All right, so instead of paying like $3 or less per book, we were paying like $7. All right, that cost us all the profit we were gonna make. All right, but I'd rather make that at the book that's at 200 backers than at the book that's coming that's gonna be 2,000 backers. Okay, more audience to leverage in the future. Every TTRPG, D&D 5e module we launch, all right, we get about 1 to 200 backers. Okay, not all of those have backed us before. A lot of them have. We have a lot of good retention, but a lot of them are new. And because we have good retention, because we build good brand, because we're top of mind, because we keep launching, all right, we've been able to grow that from, okay, we've got 30 return backers, 50 return backers, 100, 200. That's where we're sitting at right now with the D&D side. All right, it's micro is testing. So I'm gonna say a few of the same things more than once. One, because you're all tired and you might not have heard it the first time. All right. 2, because it's kind of like you've heard maybe in high school, if the teacher says it twice, it's on the test. Life is gonna test you. So if I say it twice, that's why. All right. So your product viability, can you produce it, can you ship it, the product reliable? All right. Market interest. Are they interested in the product? All right. The dice bags, we saw the interest, but it didn't work for our viability, for ourselves. Poems, their interest was limited, so I pivoted. All right. Process sustainability. All right. So this is where the dice bags come in again. So you did it. You launched the micro, you fulfilled it. Now, imagine you put in that years of work, those extra ad dollars. How would this look at 10x? Because at a micro level, shipping out 50 to 200 books yourself, doable. Maybe a little difficult, but doable. Now 10x it. I can't do that in my house. I got kids. I got a cat. He's gonna get into things, okay? Before the kids do, all right? So it helps you visualize and understand what it means to do what you're trying to do at a bigger scale, because now you've done it at a smaller scale, all right? It's building a consumer pipeline. Kickstarter has a feature called Kickstarter Updates. If you ever back one, you've probably got it. Okay? It is basically a pseudo email list. If you back my Kickstarter, during this run, I launch updates. Hey, we just hit a stretch goal. Hey, here's us demoing the thing that we're doing. All right? Hey, here's a piece of art that we just had made. Isn't it great? Hey, go follow our email list. It's a way of being in contact with them. That keeps going after the Kickstarter's ended. You can continue to engage your audience. So when my wife does a book event, we're able to update the Kickstarter and say, hey, we were just at Columbus Book Fair. All right, thank you to everyone who dropped by. All right, you get to tell them about your next project, you get to share your website and social media, and you can convert them to your email list, because as we've all discovered, a rich guy can come in and ruin your social media platform. All right, if the government doesn't do it first. All right, I don't know if TikTok's gonna be your practice or not. All right, that's what it allows you to do. It also gives you revenue. All right, so here's how it works with the TTRPG side, and this also works for books. This works for most products if you're doing the product line. Kickstarter has something called an add-on. All right, so you launch your first one. Let's call it a book, volume 1. All right, you raise $1,000, good for, or $500, good for you. Now, when you sell volume 2, you can have volume 1 as an add-on. Their baskets get bigger. We sell our TTRPG products for $10, but our average basket size was last campaign before this most recent one at 30, and now it's gone up to 46. Why? Because we have all the add-ons from the past campaigns, and because all the new people who come on aren't just buying it for $10. They're seeing a list of other things that we've done that they're interested in, and they'll tack things on. They might be a returning backer and say, hey, the last thing I got from you was good, and I see you have more, I'm ready for more. I trust you now. Last time I gave you 10, you delivered, now I'm giving you 30. All right? It builds you revenue, and if you do it the way I do it, you're going to keep that revenue. That revenue is what allowed us. We were able to be profitable through micro. It's easier to be profitable through micro and plan for that profit. That gave us the seed money we needed to make my wife's book cover from an amazing artist. Okay? And that helped a lot in getting us to that $7,000 Kickstarter. All right? It helps you build brand and reputation, because again, you're doing it over and over again, and it helps you build those knowledge and skills. All right? But how? Zach, that sounds amazing. But how do you do it? I'll tell you. So first, you're going to figure out your process. What are you going to produce? All right? How are you going to produce it? All right? I prefer, when I launch the Kickstarter, to have a finished product. Okay? Why? Because especially if you're doing something creative, like a book or an RPG, it can go in a lot of different directions. You can expect that you're going to have it finished in 2 months, and it actually take 2 years because you found a fatal flaw and you need to redesign, you need to rewrite. Have it done ahead of time. That'll also give you more capacity for the marketing, for the engagement, for all the other stuff that goes into the Kickstarter. All right? So have it shipped, ready for delivery, basically. We did, by the way, this is important, all of our TTRPG stuff digitally. Did not ship a piece of paper. Why? Because we don't count labor. That's pure profit. There's no shipping costs. There's no printing costs. That's why we were able to be so profitable and buy a cover from a really awesome artist. Okay? There it is. I knew what I was going to talk about. I just didn't know I was going to talk about it. All right? We're almost all digital with TTRPGs. That makes production a non-factor, except for the stretch goals. All right? So what physical products we have done have been very easy to ship, especially the books, which are easy to order from multiple printers. And if you don't make the mistake about enamel pens, very easily and cheaply shipped through media rate USPS. All right? So when doing a micro-Kickstarter, these are my recommendations. All right? 1, stay in your country except for digital. Okay? Why? Because shipping outside of the US is nuts. It's been nuts ever since COVID. And for your first Kickstarter, especially, for micro-Kickstarters in general, I recommend just staying away from it because you have enough to worry about. You do not need to worry about your game getting caught up in European Union customs. Okay? You need to worry about shipping and delivering what you have to the people within reach. Okay? 2, don't be afraid to go the extra mile. When we did do books, we wrapped them up in special paper, put a nice stamp on it, made them look good. All right, you can do that because you're doing it at a micro scale. $200 is the max. Everything over that. For the last Kickstarter, we didn't do that. We said pay extra $3 extra. Okay, because 200 books was too many. All right. How are you going to stay connected? This is the part of the process that comes after the Kickstarter's been launched and fulfilled and successful. You do not want to ghost them. You want them, all of those backers, to come back. All right. So Micro-Kickstarter is a great place to easily build out that email, that social media, and that Kickstarter updates. All right? Talking about the products, as I've already kind of talked about, try and stick with a Micro-Kickstarter. Break down what you're thinking of building into a book or something digital, something paper, something cheap, easy to produce, cheap, and easy to ship. All right? That's what's best for now. Some of you are like, but Zach, I got a board game. Great. Make it a card game. Make it a digital card game. All right? Is it exactly what you want? No. My wife wanted to write a book, though. She did what she had to do. She tested and learned from short stories, which was not where she wanted to be. All right? But she broke down where she wanted to be to something smaller. We're now taking all of our TTRPG content and we're making a player handbook about Chronicles, about Aragorn. All right? From all of our TTRPG materials, we could have written the whole thing first. But instead, we broke it down into pieces. We're going to launch this race, this class, this module. All right? I encourage you to go through the difficult thought exercise sometimes to break what you have down into something smaller and more deliverable. Okay? Go niche, go simple. Don't make it hard on yourself. And if you're trying to be something for everyone, you are for no one. Okay? And because you're micro, it is okay to say, hey, we're making a TTRPG short story collection. That's pretty niche. Okay? Minimum viable product for minimum viable audience is an easier way to say that. Okay? So, rewards. Basically, when you're launching a Micro-Kickstarter, there are 3 major rewards. You could just have one. The product, all right? The poem, the TTRPG, okay? But if you're going for something a little bigger, what I like to have is an easy entry. This is the $5 digital version, okay? $10 PDF of the book, all right? Your standard or core one. This is the expanded material. This is the actual physical book. And then the fancy pants one. This is the book, but it's signed, and I rubbed it on my cat, all right? It's gold foiled, it's got a special bookmark in it, all right? The fancy pants version is an opportunity for you to land someone who understands your passion, shares it, and understands your product, and likes it, and is willing to say, you know what, I think this is special, I have expendable income, I want it here, okay? For my wife, that is, she has like, I think it was $45 for her special edition. Core product was about 20. For our digitals, we just do one reward level, 10 bucks. All right. Sometimes we have a small piece of it that we have, like a kids module. We might sell that for 5 bucks, and then we might have 2 rewards. But in general, for a digital, just one reward. You do not have to go crazy. All right. You want them clear and simple. Do not over embellish on the reward section. You have a whole Kickstarter page to be fancy. With the reward section, you want to be simple and clear because you do not want to confuse them what they're going to get. I use bullet points in my rewards. Okay? Early birds. Early birds are saying, hey, you have followed me on social media. I want to reward you. You have never heard of me and you discovered this Kickstarter. I want to incentivize you. All right, you can time these. We time these at, I think, 24 or 48 hours for our Kickstarters. And it is our way of saying, hey, backers who backed us in the past, we love you. Instead of $10 for you, it's $8. Get in early. Tell your friends to get in early and you can get better pricing. For the books, it's literally like, it's a $25 book, now it's $22. For all of the people who have come in contact with us in the past, and anyone who discovers you gets a great deal. And that makes them feel good. Surprise and delight makes them more engaged, makes them want to learn more. All right? This is a personal thing, so this is a definitely hear me, but don't take it as gospel. I don't like to charge shipping. There is a trend in crowdfunding to charge shipping after the Kickstarter. Okay? As a consumer personally, I hate it. And so I have made the personal choice to include shipping in the price. All right? This is easier for me. 1, because most of the time I'm doing digital. 2, because most of the time I'm locally in the United States. That makes it easier. If you break outside the United States, okay, I understand. All right? You might have to charge shipping afterward. All right? I give that to you. But what this does for us is that it makes sure that there's no negative surprises for our backers. And it builds a really good reputation on a platform that can sometimes have people who don't deliver the product for years, and when they do, they ask for more money. And it's infuriating, all right? Which again is why I recommend, especially in the micro side, don't ship outside your country. Let's talk about pricing. It sucks. Everyone hates pricing their stuff. I'm a marketer, I do this professionally. It doesn't stop sucking, all right? When you're talking about costs, about pricing, you need to understand your costs. So definitely calculate how much is it going to cost to ship. If it's digital, 0. How much is it going to cost to package? If it's digital, 0. How much does the supply cost? If it's digital, 0. Okay, production, digital, 0. Okay, but if you're doing paper, you need to know how much it's going to cost to print it, put it in an envelope, and ship it. Okay, so that needs to go into your pricing. Do not account for the time that you invested. This is a passion project. Okay, if you start trying to pay yourself, I guarantee you every Kickstarter is in the negative. okay? Because they spent 4 years on that large Kickstarter and then thousands of dollars putting money into advertising. I can't imagine the hours of labor they put into it, all right? That should not go into your pricing. You want to be profitable, but you're not profitable so that you can go buy something. You're profitable so that you can build the next thing, all right? So that you can get a stack of money so that when you're ready for that art, for that advertising, for that prototype, you have the money. That's what that money is for. You are building your seed round yourself, okay? Review the market. Go on Kickstarter and see what other people were charging. That's where we came up with the $10 for digital TTRPG stuff. We found that to be a good middle ground. Some people were charging $40, but they had whole books, okay? Some people were charging $1, but they were one-shots, all right? We found people were charging between $8 and $12. We set in the middle, all right? You want it to be low, but not cheap. So we do a $1 every year or so. We do a $1 one-shot TTRPG thing. That's cheap. We only do that once a year because, one, it only makes 100 something, maybe $200, all right? And we see it as an opportunity to get people in at a very easy rate so that we can convert them toward our larger products in the future, which we have done successfully. Okay, that is the only time to go cheap. Your regular main product, don't negotiate on price. Make a little bit of money because you need that money, all right? They do not need that extra $5 as much as you do, all right? Because you're trying to build something, all right? It's always tricky, it's always gonna suck, so. All right, that doesn't go away. Your goal is to break even and have something left over to invest. Most people on Kickstarter aren't looking for good deals. I said it in the very beginning, they're looking for good people. They're looking for good ideas. They're looking for good projects, all right? And also, you should fear attracting the frugal shopper too much, all right? Out of those $1 backers, we might get 200, like 12 of them become backers to our $10. Now we do enough of them that matters, and those $10 are actually backing for 30, so it's great, it's a wonderful investment for us. But we do not pursue the $1 shopper, all right? And by the way, there is a reason you do not do all of your shopping at Dollar Tree, because you assume everything there sucks, all right? So do not undercut your pricing, all right? Let's talk about stretch goals, all right? So we've already talked, you want your product ready. I recommend having the next 2 stretch goals ready. Why? Because once you hit them, because you're low, let's say your funding goal is $100, you reach that in the first week of a 2-week to 4-week campaign, all right? So now you need something to talk about. So you tell them what your stretch goals are. You have them planned ahead of time, and let's say you hit 150 on your first day. What do? You want to show them that reward. You guys did it. We funded. We unlocked the stretch goal. Show it to them immediately. Have a couple ready to go. You do not need to know the exact pricing of everyone after that, all right? So, and by the way, if they're ever unreached, you reach $141, you never reach $150. If you've already built out 2 stretch goals, we do this with the TTRPGs, all right? It's usually extra art, extra maps. We'll give it to them for free. That allows us to surprise and delight them, all right? So we have planned 3 to 5, 2 ready at launch. They are clearly listed on a graphic, all right, with pricing. When you're doing a $100 campaign, I recommend just breaking out into 25s or 50s. Your funding goal is 100, next one's 150, 200, 250, 300, stop. If you hit 300 in your first day, you can come up with new stretch goals, and you can break that, maybe go from 300, not 350, do 400. You know, make it 500. That's where you can kind of be flexible and creative. All right? You want them to be simple and attainable. Give them more product, all right? Or more quality, all right? So, like I said, maps were easy for us. Signatures are easy. Don't try and do both. Don't say you're going to get a short story and gold foil, all right? Try to spend more labor because that's free, all right? It doesn't cost you money. You want that money for later, all right? So like making a map, cheap. My wife making art, cheap. If I'm paying for art, not cheap, all right? When you're doing stretch goals, try and spend as much labor as possible, all right? And I already kind of talked about this. Level and frequency depends on your funding goal and the funding rate. If you're at a really high rate, you might want to change up those stretch goals, all right, after you've hit your first round. If you're teetering along, keep them where they are, all right, and just stay true. Marketing, this is gonna go fast, all right? Don't pay for ads at first. Like I said, whenever I pay for ads, I've done like $100, tried it out, see what works. I don't do good at Facebook ads. As a professional marketer, I suck at it, all right? And that's good to know. I still mess with them every now and then, but it's good to know. And you shouldn't mess with them at all right? Build your social media ahead of time. This is, by the way, for those of you who've been into my content marketing, this is like the condensed version, all right? 2 platforms you feel comfortable with, all right? Maximum 2 that you don't. So you're probably on Facebook, you know what works on Facebook, you know what you're interested in on Facebook, you know the stuff. But if you've never been on TikTok, and so you start it, and you start dancing, it's uncomfortable, and it takes much of your time, all right? It's just going to end up sucking your capacity and your mental faculty, all right? So stick to what you know a little bit, and then expand a little bit outside of your comfort zone. Do not try and do everything at once, all right? Distribute the same content everywhere. If you post a video on TikTok, go ahead and put it on Facebook too, all right? Do not overwrap yourself when you're in the beginning, okay? Do not overwrap yourself in, I need to have dynamic content built to every platform. That's great if you're a marketing agency. You're not though. Don't push yourself. Focus on the product. Focus on the people, okay? Do not try and be a marketing agency. That's not what you're trying to be. You're trying to be an author or a game designer, all right? Or whatever else you're trying to be, okay? You'll get better at everything else over time. Plug everywhere. You have nothing to lose. I said this in my content marketing seminar earlier today. The great thing about social media is if you suck at it, no one sees it. All right? If you make a post and no one sees it, no one saw you fail. So why not post it? Okay? Worst case scenario is that no one saw it. Best case scenario is people see it and they might do something about it. You want to funnel them to the pre-launch page. This is something newer on Kickstarter if you haven't been there in a while. All right? You can build your page months ahead of time and have a pre-launch page. They can sign up to be notified by Kickstarter at launch. You want as many pre-launch followers as possible. That's going to make your day one awesome. It's also going to help you measure, like, hey, you might have thought, oh, I'll do 100, 150, 200, all right, for my stretch goals. But if you have 100 project followers because you've been working, you need to reevaluate the stretch goals. Maybe 100, 200, 300, all right, because you're going to blow through them, all right? Project followers, set up that pre-launch page, all right? Do it over and over again. Reinvest whatever you have left over. Invest it in art, invest it in ads if you think you can mess with that, all right? Invest it in tools or upgrades. At one point, we bought my wife a new iPad or tablet so that she could do art on it, all right? That upped our art game, that made us more confident in our pricing, and that made us more attractive and made us sell more. That's a worthwhile investment, all right? Send out surveys, all right? At the end of every Kickstarter, after you've delivered, give them the amount of time that makes sense for your product for them to have consumed it, okay? If it's a book, give them a month. If it's a TTRPG product, give them 2 weeks to review it. They probably won't play it right away. They might not play it for a year, okay? You send a survey and you ask, hey, we are trying to make ourselves better and we want to know, where did you find us? How do you like this? Would you share it with a friend? And by the way, do you want to sign up for our email list? All right? They've already bought in enough to give you feedback. They're more likely to buy in enough to sign up for the email list. And again, no one is taking away your email. All right? TikTok might get taken away. Twitter might fall down and burn into a dumpster if it's not already. Okay? And by the way, I'm really mad about social media, even though it's my profession. All right? I have 18,000 followers on TikTok. If I post a video, do I get 18,000 views from all of the people who said that they wanted to see my stuff? No. All right? They batch it out to see if it's interesting enough to give it to my full 18 and beyond. All right? Google does not only send your email to 10% of your email list and see how they interact with it. Okay? Email is the unsung hero, and it's evergreen, and it's valuable. Grow the email list. Okay? Stay connected, don't disappear. Have social media, 80-20 split. What's great about project marketing with Kickstarters, I only need to talk about myself a couple times a year. The rest of the time, I can post memes, Twitter screenshots, GIFs, whatever. I can just entertain and interact with the people who like me and I like them, and we all like the same thing. For me, it's Dungeons & Dragons, okay? And then 20% of the time when I'm launching something, I get to shout about it. Why? Because I've added value for the rest of the year, all right? I've engaged with them, I've built trust, I've built brand. And so when I come onto their feed every couple times a year, it's easier for them to consume. Plan for that next Kickstarter. Use your past projects as add-ons, as we've already talked about the add-on feature. Post a Kickstarter update as soon as you're launching that next Kickstarter. As soon as you have that project page you want them to follow, that pre-launch page, post the previous Kickstarter and update. Hey, thanks for backing our Kickstarter 6 months ago. We're launching our next one in 2 months. We want you to follow it so that you can get those early bird prices because we appreciate you. All right? That helps you engage with that audience, build that audience, maintain and retain that audience. All right? Real quick, we're going to talk about the structure of formatting your Kickstarter. This is very one-on-one. Everyone's going to have their own things on this. This is your put it on there and then expand from there. Okay? Project introduction. This is where you say what it is and why it's valuable. Okay? I have a book, here's what it's about. Vibe check. Okay? I have a game, here's what it's about, here's its themes, here's what kind of game it is, vibe check. That's what the project introduction is. Alright? You're making it about the project and why they would like it. Don't talk about yourself yet. Okay? What's included? This is a clear map out of exactly what you're getting. You are getting this book, this bookmark, what's on the book, it's gold foil, it's got a ribbon, so on. All right, you're getting this game, the exact, tell them what they're getting for what price, okay? Project details is where you can get a little bit more expansive. That's where you can talk more about the kind of nitty-gritty of the character of the story or the setting of the story in more detail, or the setting of the game and the inspirations of the game in more detail, all right? And more about the rules and mechanics of the game. But you want to make it simple. What we're building is an easy on-ramp for people who want to learn more in a more consumable way, all right? Then you tell them about the stretch goals. You hook them back in with what's exciting, because they're going to scroll right down to those stretch goals. They want to know what's coming next, especially if you're fully funded. They want to know what's already been unlocked. They want to know what they're going for. They want to know that when they pledge on top of what the successful campaign, that they're moving towards something, all right? So you give that to them. Then you talk about yourself. You do want to talk about yourself. You want to tell them why you're passionate about this campaign. You want to tell them, you know, why you're bringing this out into the world and what you're hoping to do with it, all right? So that they can connect with you as a person. You just don't want to talk about yourself first, because it's not about you. They're not buying you, they're buying the product. And if anything, it should be about them, all right? Because they're buying this for them, okay? And if they're buying it for you, they're buying it because buying it, giving you money makes them feel good, all right? Then there's a risks and challenges section. This is a mandatory part of Kickstarter, where you talk about what you can foresee happening. If you're doing this all digitally, I've literally just put, this is all digital. We've already made the base stuff. The only thing we have to worry about is if you guys give us too much money and we have to make too many stretch goals. And that could delay project, but we have accounted for that to the best of our abilities, all right? Very straightforward and simple when you go micro. Here's a more linear example of this. Again, we're about to get to that Q&A portion with a QR code. You will get all of these slides sent to you if you give me your email. You'll have the option to sign up for my email list. You do not have to get the slides, all right? Mistakes to avoid. Get your project approved ASAP, all right? Put it in the Kickstarter, have your header image. You do not have to have a video to get approved, but you do have to have your rewards, you have to have your product pretty locked in, you have to have pictures, all right? You want that approved ASAP so that you can be having that project pre-launch page, which by the way is now only a few months ago started, discoverable on Kickstarter. So people who are just surfing Kickstarter can find it. That's not a huge funnel, by the way. Don't think, oh, people are gonna find this and I'm gonna get thousands of followers. No, you're gonna get like 3 to 30, depending on how good you've built things, all right? But you wanna get that done ASAP. Don't ship internationally. I've said it 4 times for a reason, All right? Set your rewards that are digital as digital rewards. You can set a reward as digital or physical. If you set it as physical, or which is, by the way it automatically sets up, when there's time to deliver the survey, all right, when you're delivering digital, you just ask, what's your email address? Because you didn't mark it as digital, they will ask, what's your full address? All right, which seems cringy when all I wanted was a PDF. All right, I've made this mistake, which is why I'm telling you. By the way, I made it at a micro scale. All right, so set your digital rewards to digital. Do not disappear after you've launched the Kickstarter, after you've funded the Kickstarter, after you've fulfilled the Kickstarter. Stay in touch. Give them ways to stay in touch with you. All right. Do not prioritize tactics over strategy. If you're looking at all the ways that you can build what you're trying to build, you're going to hear a lot of advice from people like me. All right, and you might hear something really cool like, you need a website, you need TikTok. I want you to take a breath, take that idea, measure it against what you're trying to build, and see if it fits in. Do not do things because you were told to. Do things on purpose. I see a quick question back there.
Yeah. So you're saying set your rewards as digital rewards?
If they're, so yes, I'll explain this again. So if you're delivering, let's say, a PDF book, right? So when it's time to fulfill, you send out what are called backer surveys, and this is all done through Kickstarter. You don't make a Google form or any of that, okay? When you're building the backer survey, if you're doing a digital reward, your only question should really be, what's your email address that you would like your digital reward sent to? On the backer survey though, if the reward when you were building the page wasn't marked as a digital reward, which is a little button, all right, it forces the backer survey to ask for the full address because it's assuming a physical reward.
So this is only for like digital stuff?
This is only for digital stuff.
Okay.
If
so
you are shipping a book, do not mark your reward as digital.
Okay.
So I think the confusion there is that sentence would probably be set your digital rewards as digital
rewards. All right.
I'm glad you asked. 'Cause
Now,
I was gonna
a lot
ask
of people are not going to like what I'm about to say here. All right. If you're just starting into the foray of building yourself out, a lot of people say, oh, I need Patreon, I need Ko-fi, I need to put my Cash App in my TikTok bio. And most of the time, people spend more money building a sales funnel than they do building an audience funnel. And it's depressing because you did all that work for a maximum of probably $30, okay? When you could have been building your content funnel and then turn the money system on when you launch the Kickstarter. I recommend that if you're going to go after reoccurring sales, I hope you're addressing a reoccurring problem. Most of the people who are going after reoccurring sales in the creative industry are just trying to create reoccurring content that they hope is entertaining, okay? That is, I know, hard to swallow. It is my opinion, and I hope you take it with grace and understand that I'm not right about everything, and you will have your own unique situations, okay? So I give this to you as my opinion, all right? But I recommend that instead you worry about re-engaging that audience, reconnecting with that audience, all right? And worry about the next project instead of the next $30, okay? Some tools that I recommend, we're almost to the end here, folks, okay? Google Drive, it's just good. It's free, you can store everything there. I've delivered out of Google Drive, but by the way, I also found a better way to deliver book materials particularly, all right? In our TTRPG materials is Story Origin, all right? If you have readable materials, it allows you to send, if you're delivering a book, like for Kindle, all right? It will help you make the files for them, send those files, and has a link that you can direct people who are like, how do I get this on my Kindle? You use Story Origins link, it will tell them how, so that you have less customer service to do. Okay, because I'm not a Kindle expert, all right? Canva, if you do not know how to create, if you're not a graphic design person, I'm not a graphic design person. This whole presentation was built and is presented to you on Canva, okay? It is the easiest place to build graphics, all right? Incarnate is just for map making because I work in the TTRPG space. If you haven't heard of it, you should hear about it. All right, Grammarly, so that you make less mistakes and don't sound stupid like I often do, and you're not, what time? All right, I recommend using Grammarly. All right, we are at the Q&A portion. Those of you who would like these slides and this recording, please follow that QR code. You can provide your email. If you check the box to sign up for my email list, I will sign you up. If you do not check the box, you still get all the materials. I just forget about you afterward. Okay? So while that's happening, who has questions? Right here.
This is a bit of a granular question from something there at the end. Incarnate. So I've been in the map making space before. I've seen Incarnate. What you create there is immediately commercially available. So available to use for commercial purposes. I know some of the map programs, it gets a little wibbly with the rights to use them in products. So I actually didn't think that was the case with Incarnate, but it sounds like it is.
I could say, so my wife is the one who makes maps through Incarnate, so I have not been the person in there. I just hear her raving about it. We've used it for all of our TTRPG materials and have had no problem. Maybe if we went to hundreds of thousands of dollars, someone would think we were worth making problems for. So I cannot speak. Don't take my legal advice because I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question, right here.
So as part of my whole anti-social media thing, I also don't really believe in cell phones. Could I just give you my email?
I would be happy to take that email. Thank you.
Like,
Any other questions or old world forms of communication?
You'll get a pigeon in about a few hours.
I look forward to the pigeons. Right here.
What are the minimum things you need, like, to build, like, Kickstarter? Like, so, let's say I know I'm gonna do Kickstarter in, say, 6 months from now.
Yep.
At what point in time should I actually start building that page and, like, putting it on hold or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
What I would actually recommend, okay, is that once you have the kind of outline for your product, all right, and you think you're near finishing, go ahead and build it, because you can always add to it later. You do not have to build it and send it for review the same day, okay? Why I recommend doing it kind of early is that it will kind of tell you what you need to create to fill. It shows you the gaps, okay? By taking the outline I gave you, typing it out, you can quickly see, oh, an image of my main character would go really good right here. Or, oh, I need that graphic for the stretch goals. What are my stretch goals? All right, by putting it out there, you can come back a month later, 2 months later, it doesn't matter, it'll save, okay? So I recommend doing it as quick as possible. And then, when you come back to it, there's groundwork for you.
Right.
You don't have to do as much all at once.
I just didn't know if they had, like, a timeline where it would, like, after a while, they'd be like, well, you haven't used it, so.
I've never come across, I think I've come back like 6 months later, so you're probably fine.
Yeah, because I wanted to start early, and for all the reasons you just mentioned, I just didn't
Gotcha.
know if it was like, I did it, and then like, oh, I leave it alone because I'm not ready for it for 6 months, and I come back 4 months and all that's gone or something.
Yeah, I mean, if
Could they
it makes
just
you feel
say-
better, copy paste, put it in your
Yeah,
Word,
yeah,
Google
I
Drive.
was just curious if you knew.
Yep, I saw a question back there.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you have any like recommendations or resources to learn about like shipping, like what shipping is available, shipping rates, like where do you even go to start learning?
So I'll say that for our physical products, we've used Pirate Ship. All right, love Pirate Ship. Again, this is an area where I wish I could talk more on because it's not the area I'm hands-on with. My wife has been the one packaging and delivering her books, but it is another one where I can't tell you how much she is glad we have Pirate Ship. She has made mistakes and been able to go back and not be charged for them. All right, she has been able to print and understand what things were going to cost fairly enough ahead of time. All right, but if you're looking internationally, I'm just not a good resource for you. All right, USPS Postal will tell you, UPS.com will kind of tell you, and you can literally, I think UPS is easier to do this with. Go in there and ask, how much would it be to ship this to Texas? And then go from there. So, look, we're gonna start with you and then you, okay? Go ahead.
You talked a little bit about add-ons, and it makes sense. So if you have like a volume 2, volume 1 is an add-on.
Yep.
Have you ever, I could see like a pro and con to this. Do you run any discounts with that? Like, hey, get both of these for less,
Small
or
discount.
okay?
Yes.
Because
So-
my thought is, if you had backed at the full price for volume 1, do you feel cheated that someone else is getting it for less
Yep.
with volume 2?
My blanket for that would be like 10%.
Okay.
Okay, so the example is that when we do the add-ons for the TTRPGs, we sell them at $9 for the full price when they first launch. Add-on is $9. Okay, so we took off $1, all right, and especially if you're getting like 4 of them, though, that saved you $4.
Yeah.
You know, so it's nice for the books. I think they're again only like $2 or $3 off, and that is a kind of bundling deal.
Yeah.
You know, which is already a standard thing. Most people aren't going to get upset about that. And then back there in the back, you had a question.
So for the physical books
Yes.
that you're getting published, I assume you're self-publishing?
Yep.
And what recommendations do you have
So
for companies that do that?
we were using Lulu, and they worked okay for us. But if you're going to do ornate custom things, so for that, for the first like big one we did, the one that raised $7,000, 200 backers, we had gold foil cover, and it had like that kind of cushiony cover. All right, you kind of press into it. I forget what the word is. All right, my wife could tell you. It had a ribbon. Once you get into that, it becomes a little more complicated and it can become expensive. So we worked with a French company, but they ended up kind of screwing us on the binding, okay, which was unideal. It wasn't for every book, but it was for enough for us to say no more, you know. So there is a little bit of trying new things, but for micro, you're just gonna go paperback, all right? $250, I think, is about what you need to just get 25 books. All right, which is probably what you're going to fund at the very beginning. You probably don't need more, and if you do need more, because of economies of scale, it becomes cheaper per book. So great, good problem to have, you know. But you only need $250 to $500, you know. Go ahead. Oh, by the way, now we use Akron books here in Ohio.
Oh.
All right.
What's your footprint books?
I'm gonna. What is it called? It's Akron something.
Because the only way I knew to basically get a book printed on your own was to sell it on Amazon, and they would print the book for you and ship it.
No, Amazon, that is one way to do it. There's a lot of print on demand. Book Vault is an up and comer. They came from the EU. Everyone's talking about them. And by the way, I do recommend a Facebook group to you, which is Kickstarter for Authors. That is a great resource. I'm in there pretty regularly. Yep, thanks for coming, guys. 48-hour books, that's the one. 48-hour books in Akron, Ohio is what we use now for our more ornate pieces. All right, as well as our paperbacks. Once you break out from Amazon and you want to get in bookstores and stuff, you're going to need to learn. Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's an ordering process system that like Barnes and Noble orders from here, and they do the same thing as Amazon, but they do it with the bookstores. I'm gonna let that ruminate in the back of my head because I'm brain farting on it. But if I think of it, I'll let you know.
Okay.
All right. While I think about that in the back of my noggin, who else has a question for me? No, hang on. You already went. You go.
I just have a general question, kind of going off of what he was asking. So I successfully funded a board game last year.
Congratulations. Kind of applause for the man. He did the thing.
Did the thing.
Right.
But what I did find kind of along your lines is like with the early bird people got good prices, right?
Yeah.
For the first day. But then the people who just backed it after that, they paid, the $40, and then they had to pay I added the shipping on. Okay?
Yep.
So it did feel like if you backed it, and I thank all the people that backed it, but they did get it for more expensive. Granted, they got it earlier than everybody else could before it was available retail, but it was more expensive than just going to the store and buying it. Like, do you find that is something that you come across?
This is a fun thing with Kickstarter. Okay, one, like I said, pricing sucks. Okay, so two, with Kickstarter, it is more common for people to actually pay more at Kickstarter than when it comes into the store. There's a ton of games that have launched on Kickstarter that are cheaper now at Target. Okay, the best thing you can do for that is one, understand that that's kind of what the platform is built for. You're going to have people who are new to Kickstarter and don't understand that. They might get upset. That's going to happen. Okay.
Granted, I've
You
never had
can't-
anybody get upset about it.
Neither have I,
Yeah.
by the way. All right. The second thing is that's why you make Kickstarter exclusives. So if you have a board game, you make the Kickstarter exclusive card. You stamp the inside and you sign your name. None of the stuff they're going to get at Target is going to have that. Okay. That's one of the things that you can do to say, yeah, you paid more because you had to ship it. But you also, by the way, most of them don't complain. They're happy to be a part of the community. They're happy to say, I remember when that was this way. All right, I backed that before everyone else. all right? And they might get Kickstarter exclusives, which clearly set it apart. And they put in their brain sometimes, like, I've also thought about doing this, like when Gloomhaven launched, I think it was Gloomhaven, it was something. It was like, I could just buy 2 and sell the other one on eBay in a year from now. Okay, if you're doing a really large project, that's possible. Some of them are just collectors. We're nerds, we like to collect. It's special, all right? Pop vinyls are stupid, okay? But we love them. Their difference is literally a sticker most of the time, okay? That's ridiculous, and yet we're willing to pay $400 more, all right? Why the same can be true for Kickstarter. I prefer to give them more value than a sticker, you know, but that is just something that exists on the platform. Way in the back.
So you said you did 21 micro Kickstarters. What time frame was that you did that?
So
How
I
often
started.
are you launching projects?
Yeah. So the thing that I want to point out here is that I was doing this for years off my pants. I was just flying blind. Okay. So I would hope that this time frame could be a lot faster for everyone in this room, because you have someone kind of lay it out for you. Because I launched my first poetry Kickstarter when I moved to Ohio from Texas, which was my sophomore year of college. All right. So, God, let's just call it 10 years. All right, for easy math. All right, but those 21 micro Kickstarters I probably did over the course of 10, maybe 12 years maximum, I think. All right, but for those first 5 years, it was just all vibes. All right, very loose strategy. I was figuring out, I was mostly wanting to test what I was learning in marketing classes, realizing that most of it didn't work. All right, and I thought I had ideas worth selling, and I needed to get an itch that just pizza delivery wasn't scratching, you know? But I would hope that for the rest of you, that would be a more condensed time frame now that you've had someone able to lay it out for you. But you might find that you hated shipping and delivering whatever you initially launched. So feel free to pivot and go by your own timeline, not anyone else's. Okay? You had a question.
Sorry. So
I'm sorry, if you have a follow-up, go ahead.
Now that you found your groove with TTRPGs and stuff, how often are you launching? You know what I mean? Now that you're doing it more consistently.
So because my wife is our primary creator, okay, so she is right now, she's amazing. She has been launching a book last year, this year, and we'll have another one next year. But then she's switching to 2 books a year because she's just that prolific of a writer. All right, so it's all about finding the cadence that makes sense for your product. For the TTRPGs, we were doing 1 to 2, a couple times we did 3 in a year. Okay, and those were not all the same kind of TTRPG stuff. It was a module, a one-shot, and then a half module kind of thing, like just a class, you know? So when we did 3, it was more like that, you know? So it's kind of finding your own cadence, you know, for what works for you, but as much as you can without burning out, without, you know, not having more to do next year, you know, that you kind of just find the groove yourself, you know? Yes?
This was actually in response to him. Were you thinking of Ingram Spark?
Yes!
Okay.
It was Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark, you probably don't need to worry about this yet.
It's INGRAM Spark.
Yeah. Once, we did not learn about this until we were getting ready to launch the second book, okay? So what Ingram Spark is that it is where, it's kind of like a catalog that all the big stores use. All right, as far as big bookstores like Barnes & Noble. So we got our book into Barnes & Noble, all right, through networking. All right, we knew somebody, and they introduced her to my wife, and then my wife sold the person. She did great, okay? She put in the work, got in the store, sold out, because the cover was that good, all right, and because our marketing was that good. Put it back in, sold out again, okay? And so we said, hey, let's take this to more Barnes & Nobles. We go to the next Barnes & Noble, they don't know us, we don't have that network. They say, are you on Ingram Spark? We're not gonna buy directly from you, who are you? So that's why we got into Ingram Spark. It only happened after we were at the point where we could start putting her book in store. And now she'll order her paperbacks through Ingram, because I think she's getting them for like $3.50 a book versus Amazon's $4.50 a book versus Lulu's $5 to $6.50 a book, you know? So that's where Ingram, now Ingram, she has had a lot of trouble customer service wise. They are the big dog, so they do not feel the need to help you and hold your hand. They do not feel the need to have a good customer service line. Okay, so fair warning, they're a beast, and I recommend fleshing out somewhere at the bottom and just have them in mind for the future.
And
Okay.
does she, like, get her own ISBN numbers?
Yep, you can buy. We bought them in bulk.
Ah,
If
okay.
you Google buy ISBN numbers, I forget what it's called. It's like Roker, Bowker, or something like that. We bought 10. All right, you're going to want a different ISBN for Amazon than you're selling.
Okay.
Like personally, and maybe even a different ISBN for, you do need one for Ingram Spark, okay? That's why we bought them in a batch of 10. I think it was for less than $250, okay, to get 10 ISBNs that we can use for anything we wanted. All right, once you use it for that though, that's what it's for. You also might need a different one for the digital version on Amazon, if I remember correctly. She's also the one who set up Amazon. When it comes to processing the book, she's the person to talk to. Unfortunately, she's at home watching the kids right now. Next question, right here.
So I know that you said like not to worry about like recurring sales.
Yeah.
Would you definitely recommend though having at least some form of like way to continue selling after the Kickstarter?
So, depends. So here's what I'll say to that. For example, and I said this in my content marketing thing. So a lot of people, this is again like taking the advice that they think they're supposed to take, all right? They'll build a website. Well, a website hosting is gonna cost you about $100 a year to host the domain, okay? If you're not selling in person, and so for example, we use Shopify, all right? Because we sell in person at book events, we use Shopify to process all the payments. We process them through our website. That makes everything easier. That's the only reason we have the website. The post market for most products really sucks. You should have a way for them to buy afterward, but it should be extremely passive and it shouldn't cost you anything, preferably. So like Amazon or DM's Guild if you're willing to do some profit share, all right? But if you're going to end up spending $100 a year to make $12 in sales, that's just not good math. It's probably not worth your time, all right? Just have your socials, and if they want it bad enough, they'll talk to you and they can cash app you, okay? Which I have done, okay? I bought this through Facebook Messenger, okay? Consumers have changed, all right? When we trust something and we want something, we're willing to send it through Facebook, which is insane. And if you told me 10 years ago that would be the case, I would have told you you were not an intelligent person, okay? But that's where we are today. All right, any other questions? Okay, wonderful, we're done. Thank you all for coming. If you